Mojoholics, I'm your host Rebecca, and in this 13th episode of Watch Mojo FAQ, our CEO and co-founder Ashkan Karpus-Frushin joins me to discuss why we'll never run out of ideas. Hey Mojoholics, welcome to lucky number 13 Watch Mojo FAQ. Welcome, Ash.
Hi Rebecca, hi guys.
So last week we talked about how you, yes you, can get a job with Watch Mojo. So how did that go?
It went great, almost too well. We got inundated with emails. To quote my colleague Mike, who manages the freelance team, he's like, it reminded him of in Police Academy when the mayor said anybody could apply, and literally almost anybody did apply. So he just wanted me to relay the message that you should really include a resume right off the bat to make him streamline the process. And I'm gonna try to get Mike on a later show so he could come talk about the do's and don'ts of both applying and writing for Watch Mojo.
All right, so let's dive into this week's question. DocTeddy74 wants to know, do you ever publish a list from the Suggest tool that isn't as popular as the others?
Always. Next question.
Why? Does that not kind of defeat the purpose of the Suggest tool?
No, not at all. I mean, forget the Suggest tool for a second. All media companies and content producers have a tendency to produce things that are not necessarily the most popular. What the web has done is kind of highlight that the three different constituencies, so viewer slash reader slash listener, marketers and distribution companies kind of all have different objectives and all like different kind of content.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, marketers want really squeaky clean, brand safe content. Tide is not going to advertise next to porn, to be extreme there as an example. Distribution companies like YouTube say, look, our content is great and it's really, mainstream and it's, what every advertiser wants. We have such a refined, sophisticated audience. And then you guys want sex, violence, gore, things that are a bit edgy, So I think serving those three constituencies is always challenging, but it's a great thing that we don't try to cater to just what's more popular, because you wouldn't want that either.
Why?
Well, what was like our first big hit?
The Justin Bieber interview.
Okay, so I think after that, once we saw it was really off the chart, and this was before he was Senor Douchebag, we did just to follow up a biography, because I think people were like, well, who is this guy? And Funny or Die did that spoof where one day all of the links off their main page were to, I guess, real or fake Justin Bieber stories. But if we would have done that, which is a natural tendency, we would have had just an audience full of believers, and it's a good thing that we didn't.
Yeah. So I guess we always kind of focus on the infotainment stuff, the top 10s.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So once we decided to zero in on the top 10s, because YouTube is just a place where there's a lot of gamers and movie fans and music fans, it kind of became inevitable that we were getting a lot of suggestions for ideas in the comments. But the comments were really becoming impossible for us to manage properly, so that's when we launched the suggestion tool. And again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. What we started to see were a lot of, it was like we started to see a lot of suggestions for music and video games and film, but we like variety, so we always kind of kept it different.
Right. So was the initial purpose of the Suggest tool to manage the upvotes and downvotes, or was it kind of to get possible entries?
I think that's a bit like the chicken and the egg. The answer is they go hand in hand. The reality was that, one was going to feed off the other. Obviously, we weren't going to do a list if everybody downvoted it, but once we had this great tool, it didn't make sense not to also open it up and get, entries to kind of tap into the wisdom of the masses. But again, it wasn't like we were going to only go with a popularity contest. We were always going to look for novel, different ideas. And
Right.
that's why we choose things that may not be super popular.
Variety is the spice of life. So to go back to DocTeddy74's question, what are some examples of suggestions that we have greenlit that may not be as upvoted?
I would say anything in history and travel does fit that sort of description, but the music top 10s are a great example.
How so?
Well, I mean, the videos in music that do very well could be controversial music videos or top 10 songs about, drugs or top 10 jailbait songs, which, to be honest with you, the average person does not wake up and say, I'm going to go suggest this on Watch Mojo. We kind of, those are our creative sessions where we gather and drink a lot of fine scotch and brainstorm and come up with those ideas. But the ideas that do get suggested by a lot of people, whether it's top 10 Eminem, or top 10 ABBA, or top 10 Slayer, those are not as upvoted as some of our other ideas, but we will do them just because it's really, really good way, first of all, to give a treat to the fans of those artists. But also, we won't lie, if you are a Slayer fan and you may not know about WatchMojo, that day when you search for top 10 Slayer songs or greatest Slayer songs or Slayer riffs, you're going to stumble on our list and you're like, oh my God, there's so much content here, bless you. And you're just going to basically become like a Mojoholic that way.
Right. So I guess the moral there is use the suggest tool.
Yeah, use the suggestion tool, and a good example of that is, Alice in Chains, which we did, I think, last week. So that was a topic that kept coming up in the comments, and frankly, after having done Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden, it was kind of like the next natural act to do under the grunge monitor banner. But the problem was, a lot of people did upvote it, but not that many people used the suggestion tool to make entries, and one of the comments, even though most people liked it, was some albums are underrepresented. And I was just thinking to myself, well, why don't you use the suggestion tool to kind of, it's like Bill Clinton says, if you're not going to vote, don't complain when your guy doesn't go into office.
Right. But to be fair, and we love to play devil's advocate in the WatchMojo offices, so I will say there's like 1 million suggestions.
Well, there's actually like 150,000. There have been 3.2 million votes, and I think 700,000 list entries. And there's been, maybe 30,000 comments. And that is a lot. But the reality is, the suggestion tool is there. It's a tool. If you use it, great. But if you don't use it, then, to be fair and honest and reasonable here, you shouldn't complain if we do a list that you didn't like or something that you wanted to see on the list didn't make it.
Right. So I guess that's why we always say we're never going to run out of ideas.
They say never. I'm saying we're never going to run out of ideas. The reality is I never mind when I see people commenting first on the comment section. But when people say, oh my God, WatchMojo's run out of ideas, I think to myself that some people have run out of witty comments to make.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, no, again, it's everybody can say what they want. But all you got to do is go to our suggestion tool and see the In Progress tab just to see what videos we're working on, let alone all the other top suggestions that are kind of like getting lifted through the votes and that eventually, hopefully, we will do. So our fear is not that we'll run out of ideas. What keeps us up at night, well, me anyway, is that we'll never do even 1% of all the suggestions that we would like to do.
Right. So there you have it. Use the suggest tool. Every day we feature a new suggestion, so make sure to check in and vote.
And as a little special extra bonus, so if you do we get a lot of emails from people who say, look, I made a suggestion, but there's not enough votes. Please, WatchMojo, create this video. And we try, but it's kind of random and hard, but here's what we're going to do. If you have seen either a suggestion that you've made or a suggestion someone else has made that you would love to see it made into a video, but it just doesn't have enough activity, it's lost in all the clutter, go ahead and just post it on the comment section and make your case. And if we kind of think that, even if it hasn't gotten a lot of votes, we have no problem pushing it up to the top of the pile, and we'll try to get that out for you just as a special bonus to show that, if the video makes sense, we'll do it even if it doesn't have all the votes.
Cool. There you have it. What are you waiting for? Thanks for watching.
That's all for this week. Thanks for watching, and tune in again next time and tell us what you think. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow for me and Dan on What's Your Mojo.